Hello and welcome. I am Raghav, and in this session we are going to start doing API testing in our Playwright project. This is going to be very interesting. So we will start with understanding what's API testing, and then we will see how do we send API requests and get the response and then assert the response. We will see different options how we can do assertions or checks on our responses. Okay, so this is going to be very interesting. I will show you all the demo step by step. You can do hands-on along with me, and whenever you face any issues, you can let me know. Okay, so let's get started. And what's API testing? So let's say we have a client and we have a server. So let me very quickly give you an example. Uh, I'll go to maybe some demo API website. Let's go here. Okay, I am on this reqres.in, and here you can see we have got some demo APIs. Let me click on this single user, which is a get request. Okay, so I send this request, which is a URL. I send this on my browser and hit enter, and I get this response, which is a data of user. So you can see here we are saying we are going to we want to go to this location req and here we want to go to this resource API users, and we want to go to this particular user resource that is with id 2 and extract it or read it or get its data. So this is our request, and this is our client. This browser that we are using is our client. It can be some API client like Postman, etc. This time this is our client, and we are sending this to a particular address, which is a server address, and the server gets it, and the server, if it has the response to this particular request, will send us the response where it is giving us the user details, id, email, first name, last name, etc. Okay, so this is our request response structure. So here we are the client and we are sending a request, an HTTP request to the server, and the server is then sending us the response. Okay, so this is what happens in API testing. We send the request, we get the response, and then we check the response. Okay, now here API testing simply means sending HTTP request, which can be of different using different HTTP methods, which can be get, post, put, delete. We will understand this later, but these are different HTTP methods, and we are sending it to the server, or we can say to the application's backend, and then we get the response, and then we can verify things like response status, body, headers, etc. Okay, now just in case you are completely new to API testing and you want to learn more, you can go to my website automationstepbystep.com, and you can go to this API testing section. All this will take you to my YouTube playlist. So these are the API web services basics. Here I have explained all about SOAP and REST web services, and then these are some tools. So you can check this one. This is optional just in case you want to go a little more deeper and understand everything from scratch. Okay, so this is what API testing is. Here we test the response is correct, the response status, code, etc. And then we can also check the response body, the values in the response, etc. So this is what API testing is. Now let us quickly jump into our demo. How do we send API requests and how do we do API testing with Playwright? Okay, so let's go to our project and create a new file. I will open my project, and so this is our Playwright project we have been working on. So here let me create we already have some UI tests here. Let me create within this tests folder. I will first create a new folder called API. So you can, this is optional, if you want you can create it or directly create a new file. Under API folder, now I will create a new file called test underscore API, and let us say I will first run a get request. So in this session, let us start with a get request, and then in the coming sessions we will see more HTTP methods. Okay, so we have created this file. Now we will write our first API test. Okay, so let's start. This is our file. We will start by creating a method. So I will say def, I will say here def, and I will say test underscore API, and you can give it any name here. Okay, and then inside this we will pass the playwright instance or this object. So I will say Playwright, and okay, I don't want all this. I'll just say here Playwright. Okay, and give a colon and hit enter. So we have just created a simple function def test underscore API underscore get. Now after this we will create a request instance or a variable using request dot new context, and this is what will help us creating a API request and sending a API request. Okay, and this is coming from the Playwright library. So I will say here request equals Playwright dot, I will say new request, this is new request dot new context. Okay, so I will have to say request dot new context. Okay, now using this request variable I can now send the request and get the response, and this is what is helping us do it. Okay, so the next line I will have to say is I will say request, and if it is a get request I can directly give the URL, and then we can store the response in a variable called response, or you can name it anything. Okay, so I will say let us create a variable called response, and I will say equals request dot get, and then within the brackets and within the quotes you will give the URL of your get request. So let us see, let us take some demo API. So you can use, if you have your own APIs, you can use that. Let me go to this JSON placeholder which has free fake APIs, and here I can go to, yes, I can go to this get a single request or get a single post with this particular ID. This is what I'm using, this is the URL. So I'll put the URL here. Okay, now along with the URL we may have to add some headers, which I will tell you in a moment, maybe some authorization or some request headers. But for now let us go with this very simple API get request, and this is a demo API. So in this case we will not need any headers, any authorization, but I will show you that in a moment. For now let us go with this, and this will run the API, send the API to the server, or send a request to the server and store the response in a variable called response. And using the response variable now we can do assertions. So we can say assert response.status. We can also get the JSON body. So let us do this assertion. I will say assert response dot status equals 200. So 200 means it is a valid response. In case of post we create a new resource, in that case we should get something like 201, but here we should go with 200. Okay, then we can also get the response dot JSON. Now in this case it is a JSON data, JSON response. So we can say here, we can say we can create a variable called JSON data, and we can get the response dot JSON. Okay, and then we can also print it. So this will print this response body. So all this you can use. I will show you all other options that we can use with assert and what all you can do. We can also assert some particular value. So we can say assert JSON data, and this is the location or the JSON path, that is ID. So here it is a very simple, it is just ID. If it is a nested path you can do that assertion as well, which I will show you in a moment, and we are checking it should be 1. Okay, this should be 1. All right, and after that at the end we should also dispose the request context. So I am saying request dot dispose. Okay, and if you want to print this test completed successfully, that is also fine. So now let us run this. So let me first activate my environment. In case you are using a Python environment, you can activate it, otherwise it's optional. And now I will say pytest and go to the tests folder, API folder, and I will just press tab to auto complete this, and I will hit enter to run it. And you can see everything is fine. It is running this file and it has also generated a report and everything is fine. It has not printed this on the console, and that is because we have not used the -s flag to show the output console or show the output. Let me do that. I will hit the up arrow to go to the last option, last command, and say -s. So this is what I am using, pytest location of the file along with the -s flag. And now I will hit enter, and you will now see it is also showing me the response here. Okay, and everything is running fine. Okay, let's say if I want to check this is 2, which should fail, and if I now try to run this again, this should fail now, and you can see this assertion has failed. And if you check the report, if I go to reports, and here is the report. Now how to get the report and all these things we have already seen in the earlier session. You can see this is how in the report also we are getting that this has failed because of this assertion has failed. Okay, so this is how we can create a very simple request. And here let us also understand this request.new context. This creates a new HTTP client, something similar like Postman. It creates this client inside Playwright, and now using this we can create our requests. Okay, so using this request variable that we have used, we can now create our requests. Okay, here we are sending a simple get request using the .get function, and then we are asserting that the response status should be 200. Here we are converting the response to JSON, as it is JSON, we are converting it to the Python JSON dictionary, and then we are here checking from the response. We can go to any node and check, validate if it is equal to some particular value, and finally we will clean up the request context by using dispose function. Okay, so now with this knowledge that how we can generate a simple API request, let us see how we can also run a request with headers. Okay, so we can add headers, we can send a request along with headers using headers within the where we are sending the request. So for example, here where we are sending the request, request.get, we can just before closing the bracket, we can say comma and hit enter to go to the next line, and then we can keep on adding headers like this. So we can say headers equals, and within curly bracket we can keep on adding the headers, and we can add one or more headers separated by comma. Okay, so we can keep on adding headers like this. Or so let us say I have added this header, and now if I again run my request, so you can see this is pass, and this header is not making any difference here because this is anyways not required in this particular API. This is a demo API, but in case your APIs need headers, you can add headers like this. Okay, so this is within the request, sending the request with headers. If you want, you can also create the headers block separately. So within the request context, you can add extra HTTP headers like this. So let me show you a real example. If I go to this site reqres.in, here I will go to this list users. This is the link for listing all the users. This is again a get request. I will add this here. Okay, I will add this here, and here if you see this needs a API key, which is actually a authorization header we need. So we need to add this authorization header. Okay, so let's try to do that with this method of creating a headers block separately. So within this new context here, within this, I will say I will add this extra HTTP headers, extra, and you can see this is how I can keep on adding the headers. Okay, except application JSON, and then I can add more headers. So I can say authorization, and then I can add my, so these are key values. So you can see we are adding key values here. So this is my key, and this is my value. Okay, so we have created headers within this request new context when we were setting the request context, and now this is already saved in the request, so we can just use request.get and the headers will go along with this. Okay, and of course this will fail because we are also adding some assertions, so we can actually comment. I'm pressing control and forward slash on my keyboard to comment this assertion, and let us run this and check quickly. And yes, you can see this has passed. It has also given me all the, it has also printed everything here. Okay, so this has passed. Also, just to confirm that this time these headers are actually working, if I say something else here, let us say 123 invalid key for this header or for this authorization, and if I run it again, let us see what happens. So this time you can see it has failed, assertion error. We have got 401, that means unauthorized, and you can see this is unauthorized because we are not able to send the right authorization header. Okay, so this is, you can check the headers are also working, and I will again run it, and this is running fine now. Okay, so this is how you can add the headers as well. Okay, now how to assert responses. We have already seen some examples of assertions. We have printed the, we have got the status code here. If you want, you can print it using the print statement, and then we can get the response JSON and we can check the response is there. And then we have seen this as well, validating the a particular value, a particular node. And in this case, let us say this is our response this time, and here we want to assert something. Let us say I want to check here first name is George or here first name is Byron. What I will do is I have to create a JSON path because this is a JSON type of response. So you can go to any JSON find path. You can go to any online tool like JSON path finder, and here just copy your response and say beautify, and here you can click here beautify, and here you can see it is shown here extracted in this tree structure. So let us say I want to check first name Byron here. I will click here and you can see it gives me the JSON path. I will copy this and I will add it here, assert statement. I will say in place of this ID, I will add this, and you can see it has already showing me an option that how should I put this for Playwright. If you press tab, you can see this is how it should put it. Put data, then go to the third node and then go to the first name of this third node, and here we will check the name is Byron. Okay, similarly, let us say I want to go to this fourth node of data and I want to check first name here or the last name here, Edwards. I will again copy it, and here I will say assert JSON data, and here I will say this, and the value is Edwards. Okay, and now I will run it again, and this time you can see it will also run the assertion. So this is pass. Just in case I change this to anything else, this should fail, and this should also show us in the on the output and also on the in the report. So you can see this assertion has failed. Okay, so this is how you can also add your response assertions. Okay, so this is how we can run our API tests. We have already seen the commands to run. Okay, so I hope this was useful. Please try some examples and let me know if you face any issues. In the coming session we will see some more HTTP headers and more API tests. Thank you for watching and never stop learning.